everybody. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. And tonight we are going to get real and talk about one of your rights in Oregon that is so in danger of being gone. It's already practically gone, especially when you move to another state and you find out, you know, in Montana, I can carry my gun wherever I want to carry my gun, and Oregon, they keep taking your gun rights away and they're going to do more and more and more of it. So, got a local guy, Brandon Herb, runs a gun shop, and he's up. He doesn't just run a gun shop. I used to do some work with Mazama, Adam over there. When you are in the business of selling guns, you have to know what's going on because in Oregon, they're constantly trying to pull the rug out from under you. And they like to sneak them away. They just sneak and do little things. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and your gun rights are gone. And that's the reason we have a First Amendment is for freedom of speech. And the reason we have a Second Amendment is to make sure we can have the First Amendment. Because if you got a government that has more guns than you do, you're in deep shit. So our sponsors tonight, our sponsor is Dr. Michael Bratlin. Hold on. Chris Dental's Family Dentistry in Eugene. He's a good guy. And if you're looking for somebody who cares about patriots, cares about your gun rights, cares about Oregon, he is a guy. Anyway, check him out. He does sponsor our show. We couldn't do this without him. So that's a perfect thing. You guys there might be a little bit of fading or stalling on mine. I've got a computer that is so overloaded that I'm looking at a new one. So it's tending to stall out a little bit like that. When I do that, it's kind of does it. So if Brandon or I at any point look like we're like that, just ignore it because we're super handsome and there's nothing that can ruin that. So let's bring him on. Brandon Herb, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Nice to meet you, Rick.
You too, man. It's nice to meet you. So you also farm because I know there's a big storm that's predicted to come to Oregon with like a golf ball size hail up in the Portland area. Where are you, Lebanon?
Yeah, we're just outside of Lebanon. I'm just north of Lebanon.
Okay, so for people in my Montana audience, Lebanon is there's Eugene, Springfield, and that's 40 miles surrounded by, used to be reality, but now it's not. So Lebanon you go up to Salem, the state capital, and Albany, and kind of over to the right in the mountains, and it's beautiful.
Yep. Just between basically I-5 and the foothills.
So I don't know where you want to start. We got a ton of people already coming on here with comments and stuff, but Oregonians are really nervous. Tell us what happened with 114, what it was and because a court just decided and it's going to stay.
Correct. Yeah. So 114, it was passed by the voters by a extremely, probably almost unprecedented narrow margin. And basically it's an all out, in the end, will be an all-out gun ban is what they're going to try for, I guarantee in the end. But as it is, it's supposed to be a permit to purchase, and it's going to ban large capacity magazines over 10-round capacity. It was very poorly written bill. Even if you looked at it on the ballot, if you read the first sentence or two, it sounded great. Then you read into it, and then you could actually nitpick through all the rest of the details and nuances on it through it and figured out that would be the most restrictive gun bill in the nation.
So it went to court and then the courts just said, no, we're going to uphold it. So where does it at? Does that take effect soon or what do we know?
So it went, the Harnett County judge put a hold on it basically and had to go through a couple different processes there. He kind of got a little bit of a hold on it for a longer period of time. It went to an appeals court where it was a panel of 3 judges. The panel of those 3 judges, based off the precedents that it was for public safety, decided that it was constitutional and that they could go forth with it. We have 35 days to appeal from that decision, which if my math does me right, the April 16th would be the last day. 17th, it would go into effect.
Is anybody said they're going to appeal it yet? Has anybody moved forward on that?
They mentioned that they were going to appeal it right out of the gate. I don't know how far along that part is. Everybody kind of seems to be in the dark on it at the moment. I'm assuming we'll probably hear closer to the deadline whether it gets appealed or not. It also has to be accepted by Oregon Supreme Court in the appeal. If Oregon Supreme Court doesn't want to accept it, then technically it would go into effect immediately.
But the Oregon Supreme Court was all mostly our Kate Brown people that she put on there. So, that's what's so screwy about the country right now. I mean, you've got judges running states and this country. You know what I mean? I mean, not to get off topic, but I understand the three branches of government because everybody on the hardliners keep coming after me. I don't call them Democrats anymore because I have too many friends who are Democrats who are gun owners, and they're sick of this. They're sick of this garbage too.
Yep.
They're done with it. So it's not the Democrats. This is hardliner lefts who just want to stop people from owning guns because it's what is it? Like some virtue thing? Like, we're better because does that make us so we're not violent? Because I sure see the things they write on my Facebook pages and they're awful. They're awful violent. Your word, I've read in the Bible where your tongue is like a sword. So that's a weapon. Maybe we should start write some things on stopping the sword of their tongue.
Yeah.
What does this measure? So when you go back and tell me 10 magazine, what does that mean for people that don't know? What does that mean?
So basically, you wouldn't be able to have a magazine that had a capacity over 10 rounds.
What do most of them have?
I mean, most anymore have, I would say, 15 to 20 range. A lot of them have the option to put, a 30-round magazine or a 60-round drum or something like that. But most of them are in that, I would say, 15 to 20-round capacity range.
So what does that do in reality? What is that supposed to stop?
From what they claim, they think it'll stop these mass shootings from being bigger than what they are.
Because killing 10 people is
you could carry 100 magazines that carry 10 rounds apiece. It's if you ever watch a video of someone doing speed steel shooting, you can change a magazine out in a fraction of seconds.
What else does this change, Brandon? You said something before that too, and I wasn't paying enough attention.
Permit to purchase. So it's going to make it so everyone would have to take a gun safety course. It's kind of mimicking Washington, basically. Seems like whatever happens in California then happens in Washington and then gets trickled down to Oregon.
It's the left coast, yeah.
Correct. They're trying to control the whole West. So
do they even have courses that people can take yet?
Negative. So that was the biggest thing in Harnett County. Part of the pushback on it is that even if it was going to go into effect, they had no possible way to even have these courses set up. It also includes a database system, which has not even been really even dreamt of yet. So literally, like what happened in Washington when their some automatic restriction or ban went into effect in magazine capacity, there was 30 plus days where a person from Washington couldn't purchase a firearm.
Well, why don't they make it so that if you want to, if the voters vote for this measure, that's fine, but you have to have it doesn't go into effect until that you got classes set up, because as I understand it, and I've heard from people that I know in the sheriff's department, isn't the sheriff's departments the ones that are supposed to be doing this?
Yeah, it's kind of sheriff's department would do it, yes, but it's supposed to be set up as even local municipals and city police departments could be doing it, but it's supposed to be some sort of law enforcement trained official is supposed to be administering the class or training the people that would administer the class.
So they can't even cover the crime that's going on in Oregon right now.
Correct.
If you as a citizen in Oregon call the police, unless there's a murder in your house, you're probably going to have to call in and fill out a form for any kind of theft or burglary or things like that. So how in the hell do they think that they're going to have this set up in any manner of time? And then if they have to do that, you're then again taking away money, taxpayer dollars that are paying for public safety to basically take away the rights of gun owners.
Correct. And part of the 114 thing on the background check process and permit process is your fingerprints were supposed to be ran through FBI. FBI had stated in the beginning that they were not going to run these fingerprints for them. I don't know what their stance is on it now. In Measure 3075, which is a reincarnated 114, there's some not loopholes, but there's some ways if the fingerprints aren't able to be ran that they can do it by name. But originally it was supposed to be run through fingerprints.
Okay, so what's this other one you're talking about? Are there more bills right now and before the
Absolutely, absolutely. So
how many?
3075 was
How
that?
many? How many do you know?
Let's see. One. Well, if you don't count 114, there's 6 that are slated to be decided basically between now and the 9th/16th, but 9th basically.
Okay, so what's this 38? Whatever you're talking
House Bill 3075 is basically reincarnated 114. It repeals 114 and basically restuffs it with everything that was out of 114, just changing a few things, changing some stuff that they probably got wrong for what they thought they needed to do, pushes the permit to purchase back a year, changes, still does the high capacity magazines, all that stuff, changes the fees and ups all the fees for the permit to purchase price and everything. So now you're talking over $100 to get a permit. I think it's $150 to a permit, $110 for renewal, on top of whatever it costs you to do the class. So basically the people voted, it barely passed with a super narrow margin and then go into effect, but now they're basically got a backup bill that's going to go through legislation instead of to the people.
So the voters of Oregon barely approved this. They finally get it through the courts. And now the current legislature is going to throw that out and come up with a new law that fixes some of the dumb things that they did in the other one, but not all of them. And then is going to add some more dumb things to restrict people even more, and they'll pass it and without taking that back to the people.
Correct. Yeah, what they're doing is the part that in Harney County where the judge was like, you have no system in place for these people to take a class, to get a permit. You can't require the public to do this and make it law if you have no infrastructure in place to actually implement this. And that was one of the biggest reasons why we won on that part of the case. Well, now that 3075 comes out, it pushes the permit to purchase price to July 1st of 26. So that gives the state a little over a year to get their act together, basically, and get all this implemented.
So Mike Ramsdale says it takes a cop 13.7 rounds to stop one bad guy. They're trained, and it's not personal as they are going to the call. They have to qualify with a gun and deal with bad people at the same time. So you're now restricting. Does that restrict cops and stuff too?
So yes, if you actually read through it, unless they're in their official capacity. So if they are on duty, they are properly trained already, and they are allowed to carry above 10-round capacity. But almost all law enforcement take their firearm home. A lot of them take their cars home. If they're not in official capacity, meaning they're on the clock, on duty. So if they go from the police station to their house, leave the cruiser at the police station, and they take their duty belt with them, which most all of them do, they're in violation of the law if this goes into effect by having over 10-round capacity. So they would have to switch out their magazine to a 10-round magazine, leave their 17-round or 20-round magazine at the police department to go home.
Okay, so what other crazy laws are you looking at? You got that. You did the last one. What's the next one?
Well, we'll skip over one of the ones that'll probably be a bit for us to talk about. You have Measure 4, Senate Bill 429, which is proposing a 72-hour hold after the approval is given to us. We'd have to hold it for 72 hours before we could release it to the customer.
So what's that going to do?
It's just going to back up the system more. There's been numerous studies, if you look at everywhere, as far as this hold process. Like California has a huge hold period, doesn't stop crime, it doesn't change it. They're just going to get it a different way. It's going to create a black market, a bigger black market.
Because how many of these shootings that we hear about, especially school shootings or things like that, they got it from their parents, they took it out of it wasn't that how many of them actually went in, bought the gun, and then walked out? And how many are you stopping it? Go ahead.
from what I've seen, I mean, very, very, very few. And if any bought it and then used it for a bad purpose, generally it was days, months, weeks down the line. I mean, it's just the means to another process of doing harm. I mean, you could take out the guns out of the equation, and then now you're going to have automobiles and buses, and I mean, there's lots of other things that you can do to cause harm. That just happens to be the one that most people focus on.
James wants to know, are they going to give out permits for the First Amendment? I'm confused when it comes to my rights.
I agree. I watched a testimony this morning of a gal up in Portland talking about House Bill 3075, where she said she had numerous friends and family and close relatives that were affected, directly affected by gun violence, meaning that they've either been involved in gun violence or they had like a family member that had problems with gun violence. I mean, I've been around the guns all my life. I've been selling them for over 20 years. I know of one person that I even remotely know of, even counting customers, that's been involved in any sort of gun violence in self-defense situation or otherwise.
Ryan wants to know, are there any changes to the CCL for Oregon?
As far as I know, nothing changes that. Most people keeps asking me whether the CCL or your CHL would.
What does that stand for, just for people that don't know?
Concealed carry license is what he's kind of got an acronym, but concealed handgun license or carry permit.
Okay.
I don't think there's any changes. Most people are asking if there's going to be any provisions for the CCW or your concealed to satisfy the criteria of taking a class, because you do have to take a class to get your concealed in Oregon. But there's nothing in any of these bills that show that that'll be a provision.
Okay, another bill. Give us another crazy bill.
All right. Let's see. That one's not. Let's see. Oh, Senate Bill 697. You want to talk about restricting your rights? Senate Bill 697 is going to basically eliminate the purchase, or nobody can purchase under the age of 21. You can go fight for our country. You can join the military. You can vote. You can get married. You can sign legal contracts. You can be imprisoned. You can do all this stuff as a legal adult at age of 18, yet you will not be able to purchase a long gun, which you currently can between 18 and 21. You would have to go to 21 and over.
What is that?
And these things are in number sequential order. So there's three that are right back to back to back. They just start spitting them out. And
so, there's also talk in Oregon, I know, of allowing 16-year-olds to vote.
Correct.
So you let people vote at 18. Now you want to make it at 16. Voting's a hell of a lot of a responsibility.
Correct.
But you won't let them have a gun.
Correct. Yep. And they can drive a car. They can do everything as a legal adult, but you can't own a firearm.
Because you run a gun shop, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which one? What's the name of your gun shop? We might as well give it a promotion.
Sure. Right? Yeah. It's Fast Cash Inc. We're a local gun shop, pawn shop in Lebanon. We're a small town. 70% of our sales is firearms and ammunition related. We do gun shows all across the state. Back when Portland was still allowing them up the Expo Center, we were doing one a month up there. But I literally go from Medford to Portland. Basically, was doing gun shows. We were doing 26 a year.
So Portland doesn't allow gun shows anymore.
So it was at the Expo Center, and they changed the ruling in that area as far as where you can allow to have gun shows and not using public facilities.
I'm not laughing. I'm just inside. I'm just like, what is wrong with the leadership in Oregon? Because don't you think what's the biggest question you get from people walking in your shop? Like requests about all this that's going on. What's the feel of people there? I can see what they're writing on here.
Yeah.
That there are lots of angry emojis and stuff like that.
Correct. Everybody's just uncertain. There's no certainty of any of it with what's going to happen. At least seems like we keep getting these deadlines, and either they get pushed back or they get brought forward, or we thought it's gone away and it's come back. Everyone's just in disbelief that people voted for it, for one, which I think if they did a revote and had it worded correctly, I think it would fail miserably. Um, and I think there should be a law against that, as far as if it doesn't pass by 5 or 10%, that it should be revoted on. But most people are just uncertain of what's going to happen. There's no good avenues of people to get news on all this. It just
And the media doesn't understand it either, because they
no.
all think, they don't. I wonder how many people who are journalists actually have ever touched a gun. So you got people who are afraid of them probably,
Yep.
and so they hear that, well, the gun violence, we have to stop the gun violence. What makes me so angry is nobody talks about a gun can't kill unless a human being is pointing it at someone.
Correct.
And so we let the person off the hook, and we take away the rights of well-meaning, good-hearted people who want to have guns. And it's nobody's nobody's business to know why they want to have guns, to protect themselves, to hunt.
Correct.
I kill prairie dogs, because they're
Yep.
all over my yard, and I just shoot the shit out of those little things,
Yep. Yep.
So
I have a family member that was not into guns at all, and she learned once she got around us, as far as what we do with firearms, what we do for fun with firearms, in the safe manner that we're in. She is totally okay with them now. But before that, she was deathly scared of them. And I get that in my store every now and again. You'll have someone that is extremely scared, won't even step up to the counter. They're worried about that, yet they leave the building and drive in a car. You are 100,000 times more likely to get maxed out by a car or get T-boned leaving Walmart than you are to ever be involved in a firearm related incident.
So what is there another bill? I think you've done 4.
Yes, there's
here, just because people were excited about this, and
somebody
said they thought the Supreme Court said 18 could buy guns. They thought that's what that bill would change.
So, and it would only be in Oregon.
This is not
Oregon. Yeah. So yes, at 18, you can buy a firearm, and it's been that way. Federally, they changed 18 to 21-year-old purchases they do have a hold period on 3 to 10 business day hold period. They changed that a couple years ago. But other than that, they are still 100% allowed to purchase. And that hold period is vetting the recent adult, basically make sure they're not in trouble or being looked out for, by like the juvenile department or anything like that. I mean, because you could have an 18-year-old that could still be in high school. So the 3 to 10 day hold period basically sends out a notice to the juvenile department, the local county sheriff, and the local city police department of where that juvenile lives or that adult lives, and make sure that they're not being looked at for anything. So,
it's kind of, I mean, I don't know if this means anything or not, but what's kind of really unfair about it is this: most of the gun shootings, like shooting with guns, like that's bad.
Yep.
Is happening in urban Oregon
and gun-free zones. Talk about schools and shootings and stuff. For instance, Sweet Home, a smaller town than Lebanon, just 12 miles from us, basically. You are perfectly allowed to. Oh, my dog's coming here. You are perfectly allowed to concealed carry as long as you have a proper permit. So, anyways, and that's in the school. The teacher themselves can concealed carry during class as long as they are properly permitted and trained.
Which I think is a good thing.
I think it's a great thing.
I mean, I don't think they should force teachers to do that, but any teacher, like, my whole thing is, if I'm going to have a gun, and I can carry it in Montana wherever I want, but it's like, I don't want to be a victim. So if somebody comes in and starts a mass shooting, I want to be somebody with a gun that I can shoot back to protect people, not hide behind the counter. You got to have people that can do that. And, it's risky, but what is Oregon going to do? And here you have, people in the Valley, and I know you guys are considered sort of in the Valley too, but they're making laws and rules. These fear-based people who, the same ones who masked up and still wear masks for COVID, are controlling what goes on in Eastern Oregon. you need a gun. You don't know what's going to come at you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then, so you're putting the same restrictions on people, and then they wonder why these people want to move to Idaho and become part of Idaho and the greater Idaho movement,
Yep.
because
Yep.
so if somebody asks any law, NEDREC, which I think is redneck just for fun. Any law made that is repugnant to the Constitution is void. John Marshall, Supreme Court Justice, 1803. How come the federal law doesn't supersede what the idiots in the Oregon legislature are doing?
That's a good question. I don't know why some of this federal stuff doesn't supersede that. I know, obviously, between California and Illinois and other super restrictive gun states, they have way more restrictions than federally. But yeah, I'm not sure how this all plays into effect. Hopefully, hopefully, our current leadership in the White House can help change things. Maybe.
So, do you have any hope? Like, how much do you think? So, 114 will probably go into effect, and then if the legislature passes this other one, then 114 will disappear, and then this new one will pop in its place. Right. And the problem that I think people sometimes that don't follow politics don't understand is there is a super majority in the Oregon legislature, which means Republicans. And I have some very good friends that are legislators, and I appreciate them, and I'm glad they're doing it. But they're basically powerless.
Correct.
I mean, it's like they can't do anything, really. I mean, they say it and they, put out press releases and all that, but they have no power. And
Correct.
so these bills can just get railroaded right through, and which they are. And I think the good news is, I think the hardliners are starting to understand that people in Oregon are tired. A lot of Democrats in Oregon are tired, and they're going to fight back in 2 years. They're going to be fighting back. And I think that's why they're trying to shove all this crappy legislation through, just like Biden did before Trump came in. Shove it through, get these gun rules on the books so they have to undo them. And then we'll fight them in the courts when they undo them, because we stack the courts. People need to understand this, because the power of the people is getting lost. You know what I mean? And that is, apathy is what did it. And we, as the Republican Party, they just didn't do much for many years. And it's, this is what we get when we just go, oh, I just want to live my life. I don't want to pay attention. Well, you've got to pay attention, because this is what happens.
Yeah, speaking of fighting it out in court, so on this Measure 3075 or House bill, if there's any contest to the House bill or any of that stuff, it all has to be fought in Marion County. It can't be fought in any other county or any other courtroom in the state like it was this last time, which is Harney County, which was very conservative and put a hold on 114. It has to be fought in Marion County.
Huh.
And it's wrote into the bill.
How can they do that?
Yeah,
you can't. You don't get to. I think that's what's wrong with this whole thing with Trump too. What's going on with these courts? Why do they get to go pick the most liberal courts? And then did you hear this for his latest one that he has to go up against? He got the same judge as the last one, and it was just. They said it's not picked, it's just random.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, give me a freaking break. And I'm stupid,
Yeah, so if you have someone that has a legal right against this bill in Ontario, Oregon, or say Lakeview, Oregon, you're going to require them to spend all the time and money and financial means reasonable to go all the way to Salem, which can be 4 to 6 hours for these people, some people or more, to fight this. And how many times would they have to come back and forth? And they have jobs and families to tend to. So
maybe in the future we should do the same thing with the laws that we come up with. Is say it has to be tried in Harney County, and that's where you have to go. And you know what? You know what would happen, Brandon, if we did that? If you and I wrote up a bill and said it had, anything that deals with guns has to be handled in Baker. No, I wouldn't go to Baker City either anymore. But Burns, they would come. They would have a poo-poo fest.
Oh
They
yes.
would be, oh, you are destroying our democracy. You're destroying the Constitution. How is
Yep.
this not doing the exact same thing as taking democracy away from Oregonians?
Yep.
And it's ignoring the Constitution, which says every person in this country has the right to bear arms. So they're
Correct.
doing the exact, in Oregon, the Democrat Party is doing exactly what they're accusing Donald Trump of doing every single day. And we're
Yep.
a threat to democracy. You're already a threat to democracy. I mean, what a bunch of garbage, you know?
Yep. No, I don't know how they're getting away with it, but yeah, it's wrote into there. Speaking back of, we were talking about concealed carry and stuff. I forgot about Senate Bill 698. It's relating to the possession of firearms in certain public areas. So they're going to be limiting where you can conceal carry legally in public areas. You used to be able to, I don't think you can now, but you used to be able to conceal carry in the Capitol building. It was perfectly legal.
So now what kind of areas? Like Baskin Robbins?
It's going to be, no, it's going to be based off public areas, but I mean, as it is now, a business has their own right to post against it. But
But
yeah,
if it's
they're
concealed, how are they going to know?
correct. He's like, if you're concealed carry, they should know. So
You know, there's a coffee shop in Eugene, and it's a real super, liberal hangout and best coffee in town. Well, it's the second best coffee in town. And so I used to go in there, and I walked in one time, and this hippie looking dude walks in with a pack and a gun right on the side of us, and I'm like, whoa. You don't see that much in Eugene, especially a hippie. And then the guy, like, he's a total vegan and everything. And he goes, oh, they're not going to stop me from carrying my gun. I have a concealed weapons permit. I have an open carry and blah, 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 blah. It was just, and that's what I think that I think possibly what the Democrat leadership in the House and Senate in Oregon doesn't understand is this is a lot of your people that you're screwing.
yes,
And they're not, okay, so all the people watching this, what you can do? You vote them out. You
absolutely.
find out who came up with these bills, who sponsored them, and you vote them out. No
Yep.
questions asked. You're done. And when they vote on it, they have to take it before the entire House and Senate. So you look at every name that votes on it, and then you get them out of there.
Correct. I think
Because
that's what they're trying to do right now. It's kind of the last straw effort, I think. I hope to try to get in whatever they can get in because they know that things are changing. So I mean, obviously Washington's been changing, and I hope it changes the whole West Coast.
I think that is, Brandon, the good news in all of this is in everything. Look what happened to Trump.
Yep.
They tried to kill him twice. They still just beat the dead horse of the January 6th thing. What kills me is, and I've written this over and over because they come on and said, oh, you think January 6th is okay? No, I don't. I don't think January 6th is okay. Someone died.
Yep. Correct.
What I also don't think, I don't think the BLM riots, not the mostly peaceful horse crap. Mostly peaceful was the January 6th thing. That it was mostly peaceful of all the people that were there. What was not mostly peaceful is when those people, BLM rioters, destroyed businesses in Eugene and Springfield and Portland, put out the eyes of police officers in Portland with lasers, killed, I think it was a dozen people. I mean, just in Oregon. I mean, and nobody said a word about that. And January 6th happens and they can all come. I think what they've done is they're pushing so hard. And like with these gun things, when you talk about a gun and a right to have it, it's like taking away someone's free speech. That's why I think those are the two most important, is because with what you can't have one without the other.
Correct. Well, look at some of these countries where guns that are prevalent and that are already required to have a gun in some of these countries. Like some of them require you to do armed forces, and then you take your gun home with you. You get like Norway and Sweden and stuff. You have some of the places that have some of the lowest violence in the world. It's because everybody has a firearm. Now you go to a place like the UK and stuff. Firearms are basically illegal. Even the police pretty much don't have firearms. They have that huge statue that's made of knives because everybody carries a knife. And that's their motive of damage.
And look at what a mess their economy is.
Yep.
I mean, that's not a place people want to live anymore. It's like,
Nope.
it's just unbelievable. But I think people have to get to a point where they're so, it's become, did you see the story? This, I mean, I could, Brandon, we're just having our own show. It's just you and me. We're just gonna talk about all the crap going on. But this is so Oregon. Did you see
Yep.
this woman who is on the Oregon Mental Health Advisory Board from
The turtle?
Springfield, Oregon,
The
who
turtle?
identifies as a turtle?
It's
And
they, them,
somebody
and the
appointed
turtle.
her
Yeah.
to a mental health advisory board. I mean,
Correct.
how somebody called me, wrote me and said, that's so mean, you're making fun of her. No, this is a person who thinks they're a turtle and they've been put on a board.
Correct.
I mean, a mental board. I mean, I guess a mental board would fit, but an Oregon mental board, I don't understand how people can't look at that and go, something's not right here. You
Yeah.
know,
Correct.
it's just a little bit crazy.
Yep. Yeah. The Good Old Boys Club, as far as getting all their other people like-minded in, I think hopefully is going to come to an end, and we can hopefully push that out because all this stuff is just there. It's not, and it's not just guns. I mean, you go right down the list. There was almost 6,000 or over 6,000 bills introduced in Salem this session. Over 6,000 bills. Why do we need 6,000 new bills? We can't
Right.
even
And
do
look what
anything
they're
with
trying to do to water rights. We
Yes.
had CL on last week
Yep.
talking about how endangered Oregon's water rights are. And
Absolutely.
then the media, all they do is say, oh, well, that bill's dead.
For now.
No, but there's people behind the scenes down there desperately giving mouth to mouth to other parts of these bills to try to get control of your water. Because if they control your water, they control you. You can live without food for a while. You can't survive without water. And if they can tell you how much you can take out and what kind of, then that determines what kind of crops you as a farmer can grow.
Absolutely.
Depending on what you can use, they can manage you like nothing like you've ever seen in your life. And so, yeah, maybe this is an opportunity to you know, I do have this kind of hope, even though I don't live in Oregon anymore. I love Oregon. I'm born and raised there. But I have this feeling that the ship is starting to turn. Now, it's going to take years.
Correct.
Because they have messed up and redrawn district lines and gerrymandered that state to the point where it is just absolutely unrecognizable. They almost need to throw out all the lines and redraw them. And I mean fair. So there's Democrat areas, there's Republican areas. I don't think I don't want a super majority of Republicans either. There's nothing more dangerous than one party being in charge, because when the Republicans had had a super majority, they messed it up just as much. I mean, I liked it a little bit better, but that's not fair. That's not how you do things,
Correct.
So have you gone through all the bills that they're talking about so far, or do we miss any?
Yeah. So the last one is the one with the touch on. There's another one about some trigger mechanisms. Has to do with like binary triggers and stuff like that. But the last one I really want to talk about would be House Bill 3076, which really is what's going to affect me more than anything. My business, obviously, with 114 and 3075 going through, would be definitely hurt. Lots of customers that don't want to go through the process, don't financially want to pay for the process. But House Bill 3076 directly affects me as an FFL, as a store owner. It completely changes.
What does it do?
So it's basically implementing a state. So 114 and 3075 is doing a state permit for the purchaser. Now this is implementing a state permit, state license for the gun store owner. So as a gun store, we'll have to have a separate state license, even though I'm already federally licensed, insured, bonded, been through the whole ringer. I then have to do on top of that, a state license and pay a yearly fee based off of how many guns I sell. Not just
my God.
fee. It's prorated and based off how many guns. The more I sell, the more I pay.
No way.
Yep.
So they're taxing gun shops for guns as another way to bring cash into the state.
Correct. Yeah. No.
Now,
It's
not so what if the federal government, if you're already licensed through the federal government, why doesn't that supersede it?
Again, back to the whole deal, or as far as I don't know why some of this federal stuff doesn't overrule it, but I mean, to be federally licensed, we have to be state licensed, not really state licensed. We'd have to be state licensed, but we have to abide by all state rules to maintain our federal license. But that's just the start of it. I mean, just as far as that license goes, there's a bunch of stuff as far as our building, how it has to be secured. It has to have certain types of security features over the windows and doors, certain size deadbolts. I have to secure all the firearms in our display case with a cable or rod that has to be impenetrable by a bolt cutter. I have to move them back into the safe every night if they're not secured that way. Probably the biggest part of this, that's the worst, and I would say scariest part of this bill, I have to audio and video record every transaction of every person who walks through the door, and I have to keep it for 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
The 5 years of record, and audio and video record every person that walks through the door and every person that purchases a firearm.
That's unbelievable, really.
Yep. So I don't know how they can mandate that. I mean,
so what they're just doing is trying to make it so difficult for people to have gun shops that you'll just stop.
correct. And that's what will happen. I mean, even box stores, I bet you Bi-Mart in our local area will quit selling firearms. There's other box stores, Coastal, Sportsman's. I mean, it make it to a point where they won't want to even mess with it. Walmart's already quit selling firearms. That's because Kate Brown made a deal with Walmart to quit selling them in the state. That was kind of a backdoor deal. But yeah, as far as little gun shops,
Kate Brown, she was like an upstanding citizen of the government.
well, she was definitely more vocal in the news now than Kotek has been, but we don't really care for them.
They both do that. They both done the same amount of damage. That's for sure.
Correct.
So is that bill? Where's that bill right now? Is that just in?
So that's right along with all these other bills. They have to get them voted on, or I don't remember exactly how it works in a work session between now and the 9th of April. Otherwise they die. So they got to be worked on or voted on or something between now and 9th of April. So it's supposed to be heard. I think some of it's going to be heard on the 3rd. Most of it's on the 7th of April. So again, last minute, right before the deadline.
So what do you do to fight it?
Submit testimony, tell everybody about it. I don't even know. Email our legislative people and contest against it. Yeah.
Yeah, God, it's so frustrating, and I feel so bad. You would never believe, Brandon, how many emails and stuff I get from people because I've left, and they're just like, "Oh my God, it's just so horrible, Rick." And when my wife and I do a project called The Truth About Timber in Oregon, Washington, Montana, and Idaho. Mm-hmm. So when I do get back to Oregon, my wife and I look around, we just go, it just keeps getting worse and worse and more controlled. It's one of the most beautiful states you can ever have, and the people are wonderful. The Oregonians are wonderful. There's a bunch of people that come in and then think they're Oregonians. And I'm a big believer that if you move there, you're an Oregonian. But leave your stupid politics like I did. You leave that crap at home. And you come to you assimilate. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you have to throw I still have my ideas, and they've gotten stronger because they can. But what Oregon doesn't understand is how much pressure you're under. Like every day when I see news and stuff going on in Oregon, I think, oh my gosh, I don't have to pay for that. And because you guys have to, if you're a conservative person or not a hardliner, you're paying for stuff that you completely don't believe in. And somebody on here said, why don't you want a super majority of Republicans? Because nobody should have that much power. There's not a super majority in the National Congress. The Republicans have a majority, but not a super majority. Because when you have a super majority, nobody has to come to anybody to increase taxes. And that's what's going on in Oregon right now, is they're increasing taxes. They're getting all this done before they lose their pants. And which we hope that happens so that we bring some balance back to Oregon. That's all I'm looking for. I'm not looking for anybody to be in control. I want debate again, where people can have a conversation like this
and figure out what needs to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that would
Exactly.
be ideal. But when it comes to, for me, when it comes to guns, there's no debate. I got a Second Amendment right to carry a gun, and you as a state don't have the right to make it so difficult that I can't do that. That's not what our founding fathers had in mind. And if
Correct.
they don't believe in our founding fathers, there's this little country called Venezuela they can all go to if they want to. And I hear they have some really interesting people
I
there.
heard they're gonna have some really good
Bet you
tariffs
I'll
soon
bet you
too.
$10 they'll want their guns if they have to go there.
Yep, yep. There'll be tariff though. There's lots of tariffs going on Venezuela now.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with all that. We don't want to get in that, Brandon. We'll both get in trouble
Yeah,
for
yeah.
tariffs. So, what is your final message to people? I have to keep this under an hour because otherwise I can't get it on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. Just be aware of everything that's going through. Like I said, the gun stuff is not the only thing going through. Like I said, with CJ talking about the water stuff, there is hundreds and hundreds of bills still being worked on between now and April 9th. Go submit testimony for or against, however you feel. Let your politicians know that we're against this. Looking at most of these four bills that just got dropped, the 690, 678, and the 428, or sorry, 429, most people are against them. There's a little bit of people for the 3076 for the gun stores having to get a license. But most, again, we're still against it. It's going to basically put all the smaller businesses such as myself basically out of business. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars to comply to it, as far as getting our store and facility up to snuff, basically for what they want, plus probably an extra $30,000 or $40,000 a year in operating costs. I mean, there's training involved. I have to train my employees, yearly training, and keep those certificates. They're going to make me be audited every year, plus random audits. Even though I'm already federally audited by the ATF, and on about every 3 to 5 year basis. There's also up to 20% year increase on the yearly licensing, up to 20% per year.
Wow.
So in 5 years, we could double the cost.
So, Brandon, how long has your family been in Oregon?
I'm born and raised here. Both my parents are born and raised here. My dad was in the Valley. My mom was over in Eastern Oregon,
Whereabouts?
Redmond area.
Okay.
So I've been all over the state. I've basically touched just about every corner of the state, and it's like I said, it's a beautiful state. I love it. We just have some pockets of areas that are just got some knuckleheads.
It's a little valley that goes all the way up to the top. In fact, there's a storm that's kind of going along with that valley.
Correct.
Hey,
Yeah.
Brandon, appreciate you. Thank you for coming on here and doing that. And I love you understand. I love your heart.
Yeah,
I
I
could tell
appreciate it.
you were an Oregonian when I was talking to you. I knew it. I could just tell. Really,
I
really did.
appreciate it. Thank you for doing what you're doing and getting people aware of what's going on, even though it's not in your area anymore. But we appreciate you doing what you do.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you later. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
All right. So there you go. That's what you do. So there's people like Brandon, there's people like CL, who we had on last week talking about water rights issues. These are people like, this is his business, so he cares. So he's going in and spending a lot of time, educating himself so he can educate you. That's what CL is doing. He didn't want to be a water expert on the state of Oregon's water. He has a business to run. He has a family, a wife, all that stuff. But if you want to take Oregon back, this is the kind of stuff you have to do. And you have to keep going. You can't stop just because it doesn't seem like anything's happening. You have to push and ask questions, and don't be mean. I mean, and there's definitions of mean. People go, "You're mean." I don't think I'm mean. I'm direct. Be direct. Get in their face. You can say no. No. Here's why I don't want to do that. And when somebody comes up and says, "Oh, what do you think gun rights? You should have." Yeah, I do. I do. And I don't want my water on a meter. I don't want you telling me why. Because then you can control me. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You know what? Most conspiracy theories turn out to be true in 6 months. Look at COVID. Look at all that. So you can call me the conspiracy theorist all you want, all day long. I don't care, because guess what? In the end, I'm right. Because why? Because I do my homework, just like Brandon and just like CL and a whole bunch of you. But you can't sit back and whine about, oh, it's never going to be this way. And I know mail-in ballots, that has to change. But you know what? I see that all the time. Okay, when's that going to change on mail-in ballots? Well, then it won't. What has to change is we, the people, have to start going, no. Just like you do with a kid, no. And when they try to ruin your business and all that kind of stuff, you just stand back and say, no, I'm not going. That's my advice. So anyway, if you would take this and share it on your page, whatever it's on, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, share it to your audience so your people see that too. We don't need the media because they don't tell our story. They have one narrative, and it's whatever will suck up to the powers that be. Well, we're a power, but we're not at B. We're a power that's underneath the surface, and we're coming, and we're doing something. So the power is you sharing this so other people can find it. And then when people are at a party and it's uncomfortable and they say, did you really vote for Donald Trump? And you go, yeah, I did. Well, why would you do that? I'm not going to talk about that here, but that's my decision and that's what I voted. You notice that's going on a lot more now? We aren't ashamed of what we're voting for. Nobody's perfect, but I'll tell you what, what we've been doing sure isn't working. So it's time to take this big old ship and turn it around. I'm Rick Dancer. This is called Get Real with Rick Dancer because that's what we do. We get real. Good night. Share it. And we'll be back with something just as toxic on another episode. Whatever's going to get us in trouble. Trouble's a great place to be.